So, some of you may not have taken kindly to that last video I made about the whole physical media debacle. Involving Sony announcing that they are done with physical media, that starting in 2028, they will not be manufacturing physical game releases anymore. And I just want to say that, just to clarify a little further here, what I was saying, it's not that I don't mourn the death of physical media and its inevitability. I do think it's inevitable. It'll be sad not having that option anymore to buy games physically. I understand that. I understand, it's sad to see the end of an era. I get that. And it's fine to be like, man, I'm going to miss the ritual of having, physical disc and having this stuff on a shelf. I get it. But what I was trying to say in that video was that digital media, it is taking over. It is inevitable that physical media is being phased out. It's just like you look at where we're going, and I just didn't want to be a hypocrite. I didn't want to be, ranting along with everybody else saying, oh man, this is the death of gaming. This is the death of console gaming and all this other stuff. Because I would be a hypocrite if I went along with that, angry mob, because I have, indulged in digital media a lot at this point. I have more digital games than I do physically at this point. I do watch just about everything on streaming now. I don't remember the last time I popped in a DVD to watch a movie. I'm sorry, but I don't want to be a hypocrite. And I feel like you would be one of those if you're in the same boat. Like, we all do a lot of streaming shit now, you know what I mean? Like, and digital ownership and all that. And I just feel like, man, if you didn't sense where things were heading at this point, like, I'm a little surprised, that's all. I've just been a little surprised by the reaction, how angry people really are. And I just feel like it's a bit strange to me, because I do think digital preservation makes more sense. Digital information doesn't degrade. It doesn't die. You can make copies forever. It can be saved forever. Like, as long as there is tech to store it, and as long as we're around, there will be, presumably. I mean, there has to be. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to game anymore at all, physical or otherwise. So there's always going to be a way to store digital information. I can understand the whole licensing thing, people getting upset about the licensing woes. And yeah, maybe there'll be a little less of that to deal with on like a Steam storefront as opposed to console storefronts. But none of that's infallible when it comes to licensing. And yeah, that'll be something to deal with. But there's always going to be ways to, access these digital games. There's always going to be other ways. And I just feel like, yeah, if we're talking about preservation here, which is what a lot of people are bringing up, digital is the way to go, man. Like, I think a good recent example of this is Metal Gear Solid 4. The fact that we're finally getting that again on modern consoles, something that was locked entirely to PlayStation 3 hardware for a very long time, and, was physical. It was the physical media. If you had a copy of MGS4, you could still play it if you owned a PS3. But, like, think about that. Like, hardware degrades, software degrades. The means to access that stuff is going to be, it's going to be harder as technology marches forward. Like, is it really the best way to preserve this media physically? I mean, physical property, it has so many limitations. Digital media could go anywhere. So I feel like not only was it inevitable, but it's practical. And I do see it as the future of gaming. And I mean, I gave it a lot of thought, and that's why I couldn't stand with everybody else. So I just wanted to clarify. That's why I'm kind of, on that side of things. I can respect other people's viewpoints on the matter, but I just don't agree. So that brings me to another discussion, though. that I feel I have to kind of weigh in on a little bit here. And that's the recent common opinion that I've seen a lot from people, the same people that are so angry about this death of physical media from Sony. They're also talking about how they're not going to move on to PlayStation 6 in the future. They're not going to buy any consoles anymore. And they're finally going to jump ship and become PC gamers instead. You know, they're going to stick to Steam or emulations or whatever. People who've been on console forever, this is it. This is the breaking point. This is what's going to get them to make the big exodus from consoles to PC gaming. And once again, I'm going to be that guy here and say I don't really understand. Because the draw for me when it comes to home consoles has never been the software. And it sure as hell hasn't been exclusives either. I mean, people, I get so tired of it, but people all the time, when I tell them I own a PlayStation, the usual reaction is, well, what, you just care about the exclusives? There's only like 5 exclusives or 5 or 6 exclusives that are worth owning on PlayStation 5. Is that all you want to play? You got that system, this expensive system for just a handful of games? It's like, no, because it's not about exclusives either. PlayStation has a ton of third-party games. It has a ton of indie games all over the storefront. Like, there's a lot of variety. And I'm not all about just big AAA tentpole exclusives. I could care less about most of the exclusives Sony has put out in the last several years. I mean, occasionally I like them, but I sure as hell don't buy any particular console for exclusivity. It's got nothing to do with that. It's not about exclusives. It's not about software. It's the hardware, guys. It's the freaking hardware. I'm a simple gamer. I like a nice box in front of the TV that I hit power, I play a freaking game. That's all I want. I like the simplicity of consoles. I like the accessibility. I like how easy it is to deal with. And no matter what anybody says, PC gaming has certain complications. There are certain things involved in PC gaming, especially when it comes to games that are more graphically demanding. There is a level of complication there when it comes to specs, when it comes to the kind of rig you have, you know, and that can get very expensive, or it can be a headache because there's a lot to consider. When you play games on PC, especially the graphically demanding ones, you have to wonder if your system can run it. If I buy a game for PlayStation 5, I know it was designed to run on PlayStation 5. It's that simple. People like that. That's for me, speaking for myself at least, that's always been the great thing about consoles. That's what I've always loved about consoles. You know, once you have that box in front of your TV, you know that box is going to play whatever it's tied to, you know? Like, it's that simple. And it's not always about exclusives. You know, whether it's third-party games, indie games, mid-budget, whatever. Like, if it's designed for that, if it's available on that, I know it can probably run just fine on that system. Now, occasionally you get bummed up software that's just not well optimized, you know, or disastrous games like the launch of Cyberpunk or broken Bethesda games or whatever. But that's got nothing to do with the hardware. That's just, well, the developers didn't optimize their software well enough. And, you know, that can be easily avoided with a little research. You know what I mean? Like, I think consoles are great. I just think they're so easy. Not everybody wants to have to pop the hood all the time to deal with game crashes and deal with performance problems and have to adjust all the specs of your PC setup. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of stuff that is not that demanding on PC, especially Steam. Lots of great indie stuff that, even with all the indie stuff that is on PlayStation Store, there's going to be plenty of stuff that you probably can't get on consoles that you can get off of Steam, and that's great. And a lot of them can probably run on a toaster. That's great too. So you don't necessarily need an expensive PC setup to enjoy a lot of games, but I do think when it comes to those bigger games that are going to be flashier, are going to be more graphically demanding, those games especially, you're going to have to think a bit about, well, can I run this? And sometimes the only way to find out is to try, and then you run into all sorts of problems you didn't expect. And I've seen this. This is based on secondhand experience. I may not have had, a big PC setup or anything, but I've had enough experience secondhand watching Twitch streamers who game off a PC. Sometimes they have great setups. They swear by their PC setups. And sometimes they still run into problems they didn't expect. And they have to deal with all this crap. And they got to restart. And they got to tweak this or tweak that. These are things you don't have to deal with on a console. That's what I'm saying here. So yes, I will be buying a PlayStation 6 because I'm more comfortable on console. I always will be. And not having a disk drive is not going to stop me from doing that, especially since, as I've said before, I am very comfortable with digital media at this point. I stream everything I watch. I have no problem going and downloading digital games. I don't need physical media all the time anymore. It's just, I'm already comfortable with that. I've weaned myself off of physical media, pretty efficiently for the last several years. You know, it's something I've already adjusted to. I've peeled that Band-Aid off nice and slow. Everybody else has had it ripped off. And I think they just they didn't expect it to go away. And, I think they're the ones that are being the most upset right now. And like I said, I just don't, I'm not turning my back on consoles. One day I would like to have a nice PC set up just so that, when I go back to live streaming, I would like that to be better. Obviously, it's nice to have a good PC monitor set up and everything for streaming. And occasionally, just being able to download something off of Steam and pop that in and, that maybe I can't get on console. But, like, for those big AAA experiences especially, or new games, new graphically demanding games, like a new Capcom title or something, I'm going to want a console for that. I'm still going to play that off of a console. I'm still going to run that off of a console because I don't want to deal with the headaches of PC gaming. I'm sorry. If you're used to that and you're comfortable with that and you've dealt with that troubleshooting before and it doesn't bother you, great. I hope you continue to be comfortable with that. I am not. I have no experience with that. I don't like it. I don't game off of my phone either. There's certain things I just don't want to game on. I want to game on a console. And that's why I'm not scared away by this whole physical media thing. I don't care about the expenses either, because at this point, consoles, PC, it's all expensive. It's all the same shit. Everybody's saying, oh, PlayStation 6 is going to be like $1 bajillion. Well, so is PC gaming at this point, really. It's pretty, you're spending money one way or the other, so we all just need to accept that. You either give up your hobbies or just save up. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. I don't like that console prices have gone up, but, that's a whole nother topic. My point is that it's not going to stop me from gaming. I love it too much. And if you love it as much as I do, it shouldn't really stop you either, but then again, if people are able to make the jump to PC gaming and that does make them happier, so be it. I mean, best of luck. But it's just somebody like me who has been gaming on console since the beginning. I can't make that jump. I'm not ready for that jump. I don't, unless consoles just stopped being made entirely and I had no choice, I wouldn't want to do that. I just wouldn't, unless they got really faulty or just turned into crap. I don't feel the need to make that jump, to make that transition. So, yeah, I will not be abandoning consoles. No way. The closest thing I ever did to PC gaming was when I had my crappy Dell laptop. Dell is like the worst PC company in the world, by the way. Don't get one. And I got to download Killer 7 off of Steam. That was great. That did run well, and I had a good time. But, outside of that nice memory, I don't feel the need to make that jump again. I'm sorry, it's just not for me. So, yeah, I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments how you feel about this. Are you pro PC gamer? Are you pro console gamer? Are you like me, gamed on console for years and still want to make the jump? I don't know. Whatever, fire off in the comments. Let me know. Keep it civil. That's all I ask. And until next time, you get to burning and live for the passion.